That's so good. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I want to call the Town Council meeting to order. Tonight is September 15th, and I'm going to ask Councilor Rhodes to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Lesser,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Forrest, Councilor Bailey,
Here.
Councilor Carbone,
Here.
Councilor Clancy,
Here.
Councilor Durick, Councilor Rhodes,
Here.
Councilor Timbrow, Councilor Zambrello.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. And I'm going to recognize Councilor Bailey for a special moment.
If we could have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk.
Thank you, Councilor Bailey. And we'll just say there's no place for violence, political violence of any kind. And thank you, Councilor Bailey. Next item on the agenda is presentations, but I'm going to call on our Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Ivana Marrero, to start. Yeah, please. And just give your name and address, too. Thank you.
Ivana Marrero, 525 Jordan Lane. I just want to give you a quick about how this wall came about. Dorena and I have breakfast in the morning, and I'm always running things off of her about what we should do for the chamber, and she's always, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. Well, one day she says to me, hey, I saw this thing on Facebook, and it's about this Vietnam wall, and I think we could do it. And I'm like, I don't know, Dorena, that's a big job. But I played along with her, and we approached Ken and Fred, and they gave us the go-ahead. And 14 months, Dorena ate, slept, and drank that wall. I mean, that's all she talked about, and she worked so hard, and I just want to say thank you. You did a great job. You did a great job.
Thank you, Ivana, and you did a great job in the entire chamber. In a minute, I'm going to ask Dorena to come up, but I wanted to say a few words as well. You know, when you do a project of this size, it needs a champion. And Dorena has been and was the champion from day one. She dreamed of this project. It was a passion project for her because of her boys. And she had the vision, and she worked her tail off to make it happen. And I was there each day, and I think, Dorena, you must have slept there, because every time I was there, she had already been there for hours and hours. And I see many of the volunteers in the crowd as well, John and others. Thank you so much. Dorena, your leadership made all the difference in the world, and your dream came true. And to watch, and you'll probably talk about this, but to see people come to that wall that were so moved from out of town, from out of state, people looking for loved ones, people showing their children, our school kids coming from the elementary, middle, and high school. This is all because of your efforts. And now I am going to read a town proclamation that's going to be presented to you, and then I'm going to ask you to come up for a minute, and then we'll proceed with our agenda. So this is an official Town of Wethersfield proclamation. So bear with me, everybody. Whereas longtime town resident Dorena Federici has been an active member of the Wethersfield Chamber of Commerce, serving currently in her role as Vice President, and whereas Dorena also serves on the Wethersfield Economic Development and Improvement Commission, and whereas Dorena has been the integral leader of the committee responsible for bringing the American Veterans Traveling Tribute Wall to Wethersfield, which was just recently on display for the public at Cove Park. An enormous amount of coordination, leadership, and fundraising went into making this endeavor a reality for our community. Dorena's commitment and passion for this project made it happen. And in her own words, the American Veterans Traveling Tribute offers communities the chance to pay their respects to our nation's fallen warriors and gain a deeper appreciation for all those who have answered the call of service. Now, on behalf of the Town Council, I, Ken Lesser, Mayor of Wethersfield, do hereby extend the whole town's gratitude to Dorena Federici for her tireless hours of volunteer service.
I also see other people that helped, Christine and everybody. I can't name everybody, but everybody who helped. I see John, Christina. Thank you so much, Doreen.
Oh, boy. Thank you, everybody. I asked Ken how I'm supposed to do this. Good evening, Mayor Lesser and Town Council.
Well, I meant to
Usually
address
very
the
laid
council. You're
back.
doing it. You're
There you
addressing the
go.
council, yeah.
Anyways, bringing the American Veterans Traveling Tribute Wall to Wethersfield was truly a dream come true. As Ivana said, it started about 14 months ago when I told the Chamber of my idea, and then we asked Mayor Lesser and explained how important it was to do it, and there were so many priceless moments these past 4 days. The Boy Scouts placing over 200 flags on the field and spending 2 days helping people find their loved ones on the wall. And they had experience bringing that loved one to the wall and watching them cry. That moved them a lot. But they were so excited to be able to help us in that way. Last year, I asked the superintendent of schools about bringing the kids there, and it was like, oh yeah, that is not happening. They're just starting school, the buses, and I was thinking, how can we raise money for buses to bring them there? But then our new superintendent came in, and I spoke to him. Christina Williams spoke to him, and he actually told the teachers, find a way to get those kids there. When I saw those kids, because I had no idea these kids were coming, I started crying because high school kids, we have a couple of pictures, they actually were touching the wall, and that's what I always said. I wanted children to come to this wall, I wanted them to touch and feel it. And that's what was happening. And then 7th grader, they were standing there next to a veteran, and I went up there, and she said, do you know he's a general? And I said, that is amazing, he's a general. They were talking to him, and I said, you know what you do when you meet a veteran? They said, what do we do? And I put up my hand, and I says, you shake his hand, and he shook my hand. As I turned around, I looked back, and they were all extending their hands to that veteran. I went over to the girls, and I said, when you go back to school, you see your parents, you're going to tell them, I saw the wall today. I met a veteran. He's a general, and I shook his hands. And when you get older, you can tell the younger kids, you were at the wall, you met a veteran, he was a general, and I shook his hands. And they all smiled, and I told their teacher how proud I was of them. That is what I wanted, is for that to kind of awaken, and I just got an envelope full of thank you cards made out to me from Emerson Williams. And I was going to bring and read a few, but there was one that had Federici going down this way, and I just remember the F was for fabulous, and I thought that was great. And I think E was excellent, and, you know, I was like, oh, look at this. I showed Ivana the car. Getting the bugler there, he actually told me yesterday he was going to miss it. So he loved being there, and the bagpiper, and every volunteer, including the physical services, those guys were amazing. You all have my heart. The town, Ken, for continuing with that, the fire department, the police, Fred, thank you. The Chamber of Commerce, of course. Most importantly, all those veterans that thanked us, and then when the veterans hug you, they hug you tight. They hug you real tight, like don't let go. And the tears, and how finally they all came to be able to trust us enough to tell us their stories. We had great times in that tent because we had so many veterans there that didn't open up in the beginning, and they were just telling us stories, and they were okay, and they were telling them all. So I want to thank all of my, there's one though. Yesterday I saw a police officer. I went over to him. He was at the walls, and I gave him one of the challenge coins. He says, I have goosebumps. My brother was a first responder in 9/11. He's okay, but I can't go look at the wall. Do you mind if I give him this coin? And I said, absolutely. I went back and I got him a coin that actually has first responders on it, and I gave it to him to have. And he kept rubbing his arms from the goosebumps, and then he gave me a hug. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I can't tell you how many veterans I met. And also, you have all made this come true, but I would love for you to see my volunteers here, who were the best. If you guys can stand up. Don't be shy now after all this time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dorena. We'll take a picture, and would you like your family to be part of it? We can come around, I guess, Councilor. If you'd like, your family can come up. One would be kind enough to take it. Ivana, you want to take it? They're always good at it. Let's take it. You want your family? Those that would love to have your family, they want to take some fun. Didn't want to get up from your seat?
No, I just wasn't sure which.
Yeah, sorry.
It's better to bring the people up.
I want you in the middle, and I want your family. Ivana's going to tell us what she can. She's a great photographer.
Nice to be recognized.
Tell us when you... So, yeah, Dorena, you want to... And go with your family. Oh, there goes another one. Ivana, you got us? Christine? Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
You're all welcome to stay for our meeting, but I understand if you don't.
don't want to.
This is some very exciting stuff, though, if you leave. But we're going to proceed with our agenda, folks. Thank you again, Dorena. And our first item is item C1. Sorry, presentation of strategic plan and report, and that is Vlada. Sorry, kind of skipped over you for a minute. Vlada, thank you.
Been through.
Right. Good evening. My name is Vlada Raganese. I'm the Director of Capital and Strategic Initiatives for the town of Wethersfield. Today, I'm going to be giving you some information about the strategic plan. It's our first annual report. We'll just dive in. I have a brief agenda. I'll try to be succinct but informative. So I just want to go over some process updates that took place over fiscal year 25, some highlights that occurred, completed projects and projects that are in progress, and give you an update on our launch of our public dashboard, which is expected to happen in the next month or so. So to give you some updates with the process that happened this year, So all necessary staff were trained on how to use our ClearPoint software, which is where we track the strategic plan and projects. It took about a year to get us here, which is very exciting that we've trained all necessary staff, which really comprised of department heads and support staff that enter in project updates. We incorporated recommendations that were initiated from the fire department safety study. This was quite an undertaking. That study took place in 2023, so we had to review the entirety of the report, met with the fire marshal, the fire chief, the assistant town manager, and some other staff to go over to see what made sense, what items had already occurred, what was in process, and create timelines for the items that still had to take place, and those that did as well. So that took quite a bit of time, and then we incorporated everything into the software to track and show outcomes. We also established a reporting process, workflows, and timelines to go ahead and do that reporting for all of our projects. So if you've been following along over the last couple quarters, we ask staff to complete quarterly updates. So those happen at the end of each quarter. Staff have about a month to enter in updates. So let's say our last quarter that completed was June 30th, 2025. Staff have the month of July to input updates, and then we have several weeks to go through that information, compile a monthly report, and then that's provided to town council. And we've been doing that as an informative memo with highlights and also the export that shows the current statuses of all of our projects. So we've been able to do that over the last 2 quarters. So if you go back over the last couple town council agendas, you can find those reports. The last quarter is attached to the last one. And as I mentioned, currently we're working on setting up the public dashboard, which is really exciting. So the public will be able to go in and see information on every project that we have in the strategic plan. That's not to say it's every project we're working on. It's projects that are being accounted for within the strategic plan. And I'll go into a little bit more detail of what that encompasses on the next slide. So just to give you a summary of what we are tracking within the strategic plan, projects typically fall into or do fall into our 6 key strategic plan priorities. Those are community cohesion and vibrancy, high-performing government, public facilities and infrastructure, public safety, quality education, and sustainable revenue and economic development. So right now there are 106 projects being tracked in the system as of 6/30/25. There will be changes in the next quarter because projects at the end of each year will be completed, they will be sunset, and then projects beginning in the new fiscal year will be uploaded and input as well. If projects are green-lighted or funded or moved along throughout the year, they're added in at that point of the year as well, so not just at the end or beginning of a fiscal year. Out of those, this is just a high-level summary of how we kind of look at the projects and categorize them. So as I mentioned, within each strategic plan category, and then you can see the number of active projects within each category. Public facilities and infrastructure currently have the most with 54 projects, so that's about half of the projects that are tracked in the strategic plan and in the software. And then we also have a nice breakdown of how we've categorized projects with tags of priority, effort, and impact level. I'm only showing you right now the number of projects within each priority tagged with high levels. As you can see, that's about half of all projects that are either tagged with a high priority, high effort, and or high impact level. So we're working on very intricate, high level of coordination projects and projects that take up a fair amount of time for staff. So I just wanted to kind of give that clarity there. And, yep, okay, so that's that slide. So now I'd like to just give you some highlights of the projects that were completed this fiscal year. You know, there's those public projects that everyone knows about, but I think there's a lot of projects folks are unaware of, and hopefully access to the public dashboard will provide a lot more insight into what else staff are working on and what's going on in town. For instance, from that fire department study, I learned that the fire department was able to reconfigure their training calendar so that they were able to more efficiently provide OSHA and ISO training. And I will go through these briefly, but quickly, just because I want folks to know that there's just so much going on that staff are working on that really runs the gambit in terms of scope and focus, really. So Physical Services and Parks and Rec partnered to update the flooring and paint at the Pitkin Community Center in the lobby. If you haven't been there, it looks much fresher now. Physical Services and Parks and Rec also worked on renovating the T-ball field on the Broad Street Green. Physical Services replaced the PD HVAC chiller this year. The town manager's office has been working very hard with the new communications manager to create social media posts and a new process and templates. The finance office implemented a new budget creation software this past year that we utilized for budgeting for fiscal year 26. Parks and Rec completed and did improvements on the Greenfield Playground. Human Resources organized multiple life-saving trainings with Aetna in addition to other trainings for staff that have been really impactful. I had the opportunity of taking those, and there are lots of wonderful takeaways from those. The assessor's office obviously completed the townwide revaluation, which was a multi-year, year-and-a-half process, so that's quite an endeavor. The Economic Development Office, since 2023, approved 12 facade program and tax incentive applications. Social and youth services programs are a little bit different. They're more like rebate programs, energy assistance, and the We Hope program. They're not necessarily kind of one-off projects, so they were able to keep providing those services. And then information technology actually completed upgrades in the town council chambers. I'm sure you've noticed the sound improvements at our meetings. Here are a couple more projects I'd really like to touch on. These are still continuing projects. They're pending right now. But again, very interesting, wonderful, and impactful to the community. One I've had the opportunity to be a part of is the Wethersfield Library redesign in the last quarter. And these updates are as of the last quarter for 6/30. I have a couple more recent updates, but most of these are as of 6/30, so projects have progressed since then, but just to give a frame of reference for when these updates went in. So during quarter 4, we were able to post the RFP, the request for proposals, for the construction manager, and that's actually on the agenda tonight to award that contract. So that project has been progressing nicely. In quarter 4, we completed working through construction documents for that project, and we're able to get that construction manager out to bid using those documents to get a more accurate cost. The town website redesign project was for the most part completed. There's just a couple other updates being done. If you visited the website, you can tell it's much more efficient, user-friendly, and just aesthetically more appealing. The planning office has been working on updating code enforcement ordinances that are in line with our state codes, so they've had preliminary meetings with P&Z on those. The Old Academy cupola restoration project has been underway. There's a picture in the upper left-hand corner of that. Cronenberger has been helping us to restore that cupola, and that project, that cupola was taken down about a year and a half ago, so that's taken quite a bit of time to get here, and we're starting to plan for reattachment. So that's been very exciting to support that project as well. The Emerson Williams Playground, there's been drainage work that's been completed throughout June. I believe the project ended and was completed in July, but as I said, the updates as are of 6/30/25. The Cove Park entrance project was also completed this past summer, so that's been very exciting. The Goffbrook Dam hazard class assessment was completed this year. Another exciting update from the town manager's office and the social media. We've increased Facebook followers by about 1,000 in the last quarter, I believe, which is quite an endeavor and a really great growth. The Frank Weston Rose Garden is underway and in construction. If you drive by it, you can see all the progress that's been made, and there's a photo in the lower right-hand corner showing that as of last week. And I believe that's due to be completed this year potentially, or a large chunk of it will be. 2 more to go. The physical services facility upgrades for the female showers have been moving along. I believe that's slated to be completed in the next quarter or 2 as well. And then another project that's been very long range is the Silas Deane Highway Corridor Study, which has kicked off in the last quarter with our consultants. There's a survey link in the presentation that you're able to take now. There's a QR code here as well, but we're very excited to be moving through that. Candidly, that project started about 2 years ago when we submitted an application, and it's very exciting to be this far working with the consultants and having had them already collected preliminary data and now working with the public to get their input as well. Okay, and then here's the next step. Very exciting to soon be launching our public dashboard. So the expected timeline for this launch is in October. The updates that you'll see when it launches will be as of 6/30/25, because that'll be the latest quarter that we have enough time to process to show. So it'll be these updates and those 106 projects that I discussed. I'm going to give you a sneak peek on what the mock-up is going to look like in WordPress. Very excited to share this. It's going to be pretty reflective of our website and easy to follow along through. So this will be the landing page you see when you first get onto that website. It has those 6 priorities right along the bottom. You'll be able to go through and look at each priority, the objectives and goals within each priority, which will look like this. You can see kind of the highlights there with a nice summary of how things are moving along on track with the initiatives or the projects. And then you'll be able to dive into each project themselves and see what the status is, the expected timeline of the project, and the priority and those impact levels that I mentioned as well. So hopefully this gives a lot more clarity to folks in the public about what staff work on at a high level with these longer range projects. These projects do not include day-to-day activities or any subtasks. These are really those kind of high-level projects that might not be as visible, but are also very impactful within the community. And my last slide here is, if you're curious to see the quarterly reports and you're not interested in going into the public dashboard once it becomes live, those will be attached the month following the quarter's end, or the second month following the quarter's end. So you can also see them within the agendas for town council those 2 months later as well. So thank you so much, and I hope that was interesting.
Thank you, excuse me, thank you, Vlada, for that presentation. It was interesting, and appreciate all the work you and the rest of the staff has done. Open it up to councilors for any questions for Vlada on this report. Anyone? Thank you very much, Vlada. We appreciate it. Moving on in our agenda tonight, the next item is item C-1, public hearing on the resolution for Vision Zero policy adoption. Mr. Town Manager.
Yeah, I'm just going to let Vlada stay up there because she's been the driver on this one too. So, Vlada.
You don't have to go very far, Vlada. Thank you.
No, that's why I brought my water with me. Okay, so for Vision Zero, the town of Wethersfield, we've already been doing, we've already unofficially been adhering to the Vision Zero policy. And what the Vision Zero policy really is, and what it states, is that the town strives to reduce and eliminate serious roadway crashes and deaths while increasing safety, health, and equitable mobility for all. So we already do that within our planning process and implementation process. In the past, traffic deaths were really thought of as accidents and as though they could not be preventable. And this type of policy really acknowledges that serious crashes and roadway deaths are preventable. We need to be proactive in order to be able to accomplish that type of goal, though. That means that we need to have strong leadership, collaboration, and accountability. We need to plan for our roads to be safer and to be able to sustain crash, and it's no longer referred to as accidents, they are referred to as crashes now, that we're able to sustain crashes and they will be less harmful to the folks that are impacted. We need to prioritize speed management, equity and community engagement, and transparency when making decisions within our planning process. when working through projects that involve roads and trails, and really working towards that goal of getting to zero. So we do a lot of that. The benefit of adopting such a policy also is that at times it is beneficial with applications for funding. It could set us apart from other towns of similar projects to see that this is one of our goals. But I think a lot of it is acknowledging that we are working towards this goal proactively, and we have been doing this already in the past. So it's more of kind of stating that we're going to continue the work that we're doing by adopting such a policy.
So thank you, Vlada, appreciate it. In a minute, I'm going to open this up to the public for anyone who has any comments on this item specifically or questions. But first, councilors, do you have any? This will be on our agenda for a possible vote, so we'll be talking about it later in the meeting as well. But Councilor Carbone.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I know we'll be discussing it. We're going to open it for discussion for councilors, but just for people aware for the public hearing, you keep talking about a policy. I didn't find a written, documented policy anywhere in here. So I'm curious as to what policy you're referring to, or are we just making it up?
We had attached,
I didn't see it in the...
The resolution.
So the resolution, so there's no structured format we're following? Is that, because when I hear what you're saying, that we're kind of already doing this, we're already implementing some of the things. We have, the safety corridor grants and things like that you've been working on, and I love that, and we're working with the red lights and the, speed traps. Like, I think that's fabulous. So since we're already kind of doing those things, and I guess what I'm looking for is if we're following a policy, to me, that structure, it's going to tell you what to do and how to get there. So this just looks like, to me, words.
Well, that's not quite what the Vision Zero policy is. It's
Okay.
not saying we will put in a roundabout and do this, because it's really up to adhering to the data and what the data tells us to do. So it's proactively assessing our current state and following, not to say the rules of the road, but tried and true techniques that eliminate or reduce serious crashes and fatalities. So there are formulas to doing that, but that's not necessarily provided directly in that policy because it is case specific.
And this is also just the first step. So the council adopts a policy, and then staff will begin to move forward. So as an example, West Hartford is a Vision Zero town. They adopted a policy very similar to this. Then they created their Vision Zero plan, which is more detailed around the types of thing that you're talking about. I think it's like an 80-page document that says these are the things we're going to want. These are our goals in each of these different areas. These are some projects we're going to target. And then they update the plan on a regular basis. That's the next step in this.
And the town council will decide that?
Yes, you'll get the plan. The plan will come back to you. We'll develop it with
Let me back
with
that straight up.
stakeholders.
Who
Yeah.
devises the plan?
Excuse me?
Who devises the plan?
Who creates it?
Yes.
Staff along with stakeholders. So we'll meet with stakeholders, Bike Walk Wethersfield, other residents in the area. Like we have now, we have a bike pedestrian group, and they'll be the ones that will be advising on the plan. But staff will create the plan, and then we'll bring it back to the council for adoption.
We are currently
Include the police department working with them?
Yes, absolutely,
And
yeah.
everybody in the fire department? Okay.
Sure, that's part of staff, yeah.
We are currently working on a report
Staff
as
is
well.
just very, general, sorry.
We are currently working on a report as well to show, to more specifically define, or not define, but express what the Vision Zero policy also would mean for us, current data that we have, the projects we are currently working on, and kind of where we want to be. It's less of a plan other than a report, but getting to the plan is the goal, to having more of actionable items, which we're looking to do with the bike ped pedestrian plan. That's just one very specific piece of a Vision Zero policy.
We already have so many parts of the plan because of the work we've been doing for several years now. We've actually been invited guests to several of the workshops done by the T2 Center at UConn, which kind of leads this effort statewide, because this is a statewide effort. It's also a national effort. And we were asked to submit this because we're already doing so much. And so our plan is going to be based largely on a lot of the work we're already doing. So as an example, the stuff we've done on Wethersfield with the raised crosswalks, the new crosswalk at Charles Wright with the rapid flashing beacons to make it safe for people to cross. We've got 4 more of those in the queue that we're going to be doing at key intersections, our key locations. And so those types of things will all be embedded into this as part of it.
Okay, and forgive my redundancy, but I guess I'm just trying to figure out why adopting this language is going to, what will that change for us? You know, because right now we're doing it already, so what do we benefit from?
What this,
The
the
same
benefit
word.
of this is right now, we've been doing this as staff for quite some time, doing a
Yeah,
lot of things.
agreed.
This is the council saying, we are united as a body and we want to move this forward. And then basically, and then that, to Vlada's point, well, when we apply for grants, they see the council's adopted this resolution, this policy moving forward, so then they know that you're
More
backing all the
committed
work we're doing.
to, okay.
Yeah.
All set, Counselor
Yes,
Carbone?
thank you, Vlada,
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
I'll just
time.
make a comment on that. So part of Vision Zero is setting a goal of 0 fatalities. Last year, we had 3
Well, that
on the
should be the goal,
Silas Deane
regardless,
Highway.
right?
This is the goal, and then we implement the plan to achieve that goal. As you know, this council also, and one of the first in the state, passed the red light and speed cameras. That's also to improve safety on the Silas Deane and potentially all of our other roadways. And we were 5th in the state to get approval, and now we're in the process of implementing those speed cameras and red light cameras. This is all part of a process to make our roads safer. And this policy is a goal of 0 fatalities, a Vision Zero, and then the staff will come up with the exact plan. But we will have a chance to vote on this later. But now, unless there's any council comments or questions, I want to open up for any public comments or questions just on this hearing item, which is Vision Zero. Any public comments on Vision Zero? Yes, Kevin, name and address, please.
Good evening, Kevin Sullivan, 79 Wright Road. I'm also a member of Bike Walk Wethersfield. I personally very much, and on behalf of Bike Walk Wethersfield, very much support adoption of the policy. We already have a complete streets policy, but I personally view that as more of an infrastructure-focused kind of goal. Vision Zero is broader than that and involves, in my mind, data-driven, which I think is something that we would all appreciate, and trying to agree on where to focus our efforts and funds. So I really like the data-driven aspect of Vision Zero. In some of the bicycling and pedestrian advisory committees, you know, some of the bike and pedestrian nerds are there, and people will say, well, why can't we get bike lanes on this or that street? And town staff will reply, well, we don't yet really have a plan that establishes priorities. Because there just isn't funds to put bicycling lanes on every street, and we probably don't need them on every street. You know, so where are you going to put them? And I think Vision Zero would be a good way to focus on what should be the priorities going forward, and something that the town council could see as what those are going forward. And I would like to add to some of the benefits that were espoused during the presentation were things like ability to get future grant funds and things like that. That's awesome. And with me standing here, you can assume that I believe that Vision Zero would be good for bicycling and pedestrians. It would be. But for people that don't bike or walk or don't want to, it has a broader effect, which is it supports economic development in town, especially for the small businesses that we have in town, and it also creates a better community. People prefer to live where it's safe to be on the street, including drivers. So remember, when I'm standing up here, yeah, I'm a bike and ped nerd, but it's also an economic development and a community development thing too. So I hope you'll support this initiative. I think it's a great next step to take. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else just on this public hearing item on Vision Zero? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and go to regular public comments. And as I do before every public comment opening session, I'm going to read this statement and then we'll open it up. During the public comment, members of the public will have 5 minutes to speak on any issue. We have a lighted timer at the podium to help each speaker be aware of the time remaining for them to address the council. When you step up to the podium, please state your name and address At this point, the green light will come on showing you your 5 minutes have begun. The yellow light will come on when you have 1 minute left, and we ask you to begin to wrap up your comments. The red light will come on at 5-minute limit, and we ask to complete your comments. I ask you address your comments to the entire council and refrain from speaking directly to or about an individual council member or directly to the audience. I do ask that you refrain from any derogatory comments or personal attacks and always remain respectful. This section is for public comment, and the council will generally not engage in a dialogue during this portion of the agenda. If any follow-up is needed, please leave your contact information with the town manager or the town clerk, and they will follow up with you. At this point, I'm opening it up to public. That's the hand I saw first. You just come on up and state your name and address, please.
Melody Boganpani, 59 Toller Terrace. Hello, my name is Melody. You can use they, her pronouns when referring to me. I'm here to speak in support of the school referendum. At a time when we have the federal government actively disinvesting in our education system and holding us back from moving forward, I see this as an opportunity to say that we support giving our students classrooms built for the 21st century. Of course, taxes will go up. I don't think anyone will hide that fact. It was in the brochure sent to everyone in town, after all. But it is a fact of life. In order for our town, or any town, to improve, we need to pay taxes. As a resident of this town, we all have our part to share and contribute to the infrastructure of our town that comes as tax revenue. It may also be worth mentioning the state reimbursement rate that our reps lobbied for and got. If we pass up this opportunity now to renovate our schools, we may never get as high of a reimbursement rate. We can put a Band-Aid on our schools for only so long, which is costing us much more money in a shorter time frame due to all the repairs we spend to keep these schools operating. Now is the time we take a fiscally responsible approach and to our schools to help our town in the long term and show that we have an appreciation in our students to be the most well-equipped to take on the 21st century. And I also want to add on a little bit. As a member of the LGBTQ+ community, I find it a little distasteful that we would have a moment of silence for somebody who advocated for hate, especially when in these times we have headlines saying that trans people are worse than Al-Qaeda. I know that this council voted to not have the pride flag up anymore, and I just find it I don't know.
Thank you, Melody. Further public comments? Anyone else from the public? No? Oh, yes, sir.
Peter Gardo, 60 Griswold Road. Now, about 20 years ago, I was the chairman of the Strategic Planning Committee for this town, and it didn't go anywhere. And what I saw tonight, it was all volunteers. We had a staff, the assistant town manager working with us. So that was interesting. But being a digital minimalist, I'm not going to go to a website. All right. I expect to be told that things are going on around me in the mail. And, you know, for a number of years, 2.5 years, I've come here to talk about the plans for the Millwoods Park. Last September, there was a meeting where a major stakeholders of the park, the abutters, the neighbors, was finally invited to. At this meeting, an email address was provided to give feedback about the plans. I sent my thoughts to the email address and I received a thank you note. Since then, nothing. That presentation talked about high-performing government. This is not a high-performing government. This town council, the last town council. And in the meantime, in the last year, I've gotten tax bills, notification about the road being sealed, and information about the bond tomorrow. 2 weeks ago, construction barriers were erected around the ball field adjacent to my property at Millwoods Park. Heavy equipment moved in the next day for the demolition of the field, to find out that it's for a drainage project. You know, with the economy how it is, my taxes went up 8.5%. I found also out last week that there is no plan for Millwoods Park yet. And this is happening. I don't know how, you know, it was a capital improvement, but this was unexpected. The work that was being done was that is being performed is very loud and disruptive. No note from a high-performing government. When the sidewalk was being removed last year to install a new gas line, there's plenty of notice and communications from the gas company, the sidewalk restorer, and the town. It all came in the mail, all right? What happens on the front of my property seems to be important, but the rear important part of my property is not, and that's really disturbing. Members of the town council and the staff are what are called public servants. You know, however, at this time, I can identify with the George Carlin quote, "It's a big club and you ain't in it." It seems as though you engage the neighbors when something in the rule book says to. Otherwise, you're silent. You need more empathy and more communications with the abutters. And for someone whose taxes went up 8.5% last year, I really think you can afford it. And on top of that, I believe it was the town manager was just talking about this Vision Zero. They're going to engage stakeholders. For this park plan, the neighbors who are stakeholders was an afterthought and continues to be an afterthought. So you need to become a high-performing government, like your strategic plan says. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Further public, thank you. Further, Bob, Mr. Woodward.
My name is Bob Woodward. I live at 456 Middletown Avenue here in Wethersfield. Read an interesting letter in Rare Reminder about tomorrow's date, saying that if the town council had thought that we, the citizens, could handle everything on the November ballot, those running the charter and the referendum, you could have saved 25,000. The 25,000 was in the article. I keep saying 20, but it's somewhere in there. I am still not going to pay this when I pay my tax. I'm going to take my share out of it, which is probably $2 or $2.50. I'm going to give it away to something that will help people, and I'm not going to support this waste of money when we could have done it on November 4th. Hartford Courant had an article about Alice. Assets and income limited, I can't give you all the meanings, but said Alice individuals are growing in the suburbs. That's Wethersfield. Somebody recently told me that 29% of Wethersfield population is Alice. People on Alice probably don't have reserves. They live on their income. Can they afford what we may or may not vote tomorrow? Can the senior citizens, and we have a high percentage of senior citizens, afford? And even if we have reserves, we need them for other things. Then necessarily to pay for the school. Questions that you need to ponder carefully. You're here for all of us. I keep saying this year in and year out, not just for some. I'd like to read a quote from Don Amore in the Hartford Courant. Listen carefully to the words of this young woman. She's 36 years old. She spent 4 years in Connecticut, but listen carefully. After 20 years of competing for championships, I learned that so much of the work needed to create championship culture is actually hidden. For my teams, that looked like hidden hours on the court together. Likewise, much of the work of building championship communities is unseen. The internal work we have to do to realize we are all teammates on this planet. Discovering the neighbors around us as we have often overlooked. Showing up to learn and listen to people who have different perspectives than our own. Figuring out how we can all get our needs met and not at the expense of someone else's dignity. Anyone know who said those words? All-American Maya Moore, who was recently inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. They apply to this town. I listened very carefully at the last meeting. It was full of anger. I think you all knew that. We are a very divided community, and it may become more divided tomorrow. I have no idea. We need to learn to work together. We will only solve the Millwoods Park situation by working together. We will only solve the school situation by working together and realizing that we are all different, have different needs, but together we might get somewhere. I am going up to the poll where I vote at the community center. I'm going up early. I'm going to take my chair and I'm going to sit 75 feet away. And I'm going to greet people and say, please vote no, but have a good day. We need to work together even if we're different, even if we have different needs. There are about half a dozen signs in Rocky Hill and a couple in Wethersfield. I'd like to plant one right outside this building. Hate has no home here. We need to hear that in Wethersfield. And I'll give you 2 signs I see in East Hartford. Choose love. Be kind, have hope. We need to be this team that Maya Moore envisioned. Can we do this in the next year? Can we work together? Can we find a school situation that will benefit us all? Someone in one of the letters in the newspaper had a plan that sounded pretty good. Sounded like we could solve a lot of the problems without taking big chunks of money out of any of us. I leave you with these thoughts as we approach tomorrow, but I'm not paying my share of tomorrow's cost. Believe me, it didn't have to happen tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. Thank you, Bob. Further public comments? Anyone else from the public? Mr. Young.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. It was interesting how it was mentioned tonight about high performance government. No such thing in Wethersfield. This low performing government is more like it. And as far as what Mr. Woodward was talking about, the Alice people, the people that are on the low end of the stick and the economic scale, this is going to be a disaster for them if it should pass. And not only for them, for the rest of us. When we look at the $239 million that you approved on all of us to vote on,
when it fails, how are you going to make out on this? Every one of you voted for it, including the ones who are not running, those who are running, the other 6 people, or how many you have that are also running. Everybody voted in favor of $239 million to spend on the schools. And when it fails, what are you going to do? And what are the citizens going to do? They have no more heroes, Mayor. They have no more heroes. What I did was, I want answers, but we don't get answers from the town of Wethersfield. Everything is kept quiet, stifled, right on down the line. Don't give them out, anything. So I was asking, how much does your interest going to cost us for the 20-year bond on the 20-year level principal bond at 4.75%. I get an answer back from the town manager's office, we don't have that information. Can't provide it. Isn't that wonderful? His organization, people under him, consultants, the Wethersfield Advisory Building Committee, are all under him, and they came up with these with $239 million, and there's they can't provide information for me to support the $239 million. He can't support the interest. What he says is we don't have it. That's a shame. That's a shame that you could put some information out there and can't support it. And then you want to call yourself high performance? So here's what I did. I went out to the internet and I says, give me for 20-year bond, level payment, a level principal payment at 4.75%. It gave me the answer. I didn't have to go to him. He could be replaced now. Chat.com replaces our town manager. We don't need to come to him for answers. But he couldn't give me the number for the $239 million, how much the interest was going to be on that, because his office says, go to the state of Connecticut to get that. No, his people put it together. And his people should have been providing it to him, not the state of Connecticut. They had nothing to do with it. And what would be the interest on it, Mr. Town Manager? When you borrow $239 million, it's roughly, and I can only talk roughly because he hasn't cranked it out, $113 million. We as taxpayers are going to pay $213 million in just interest on $239 million. That would be a total gross amount of $352 million over 20 plus years, because it won't run on just 20 years, it's going to be more. And we're going to be paying dearly for this money. Now, for his $88 million, the $88 million is going to generate $41,800,000 in interest charges for the town of Wethersfield citizens. And that would be $129 million that Wethersfield has to pay back on their share of this. This is horrendous amounts of money, and I'll be addressing it at a later date because I'm now running out of time. But this is the problem with the town council.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
It's your problem.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Further public comment tonight? Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to move on the agenda to council reports. Does anyone from the council have a report tonight they want to give? Councilors? Oh, was there another hand? I didn't see it. Did you want to speak? Thank you, Jim. Please. My apologies, I didn't see your hand.
I'll speak after that.
Nancy Correa, 95 Griswold Road. The repeated phrase that first struck me about the school referendum discussion is the phrase, our children. A more accurate description would be the children whose parents and supporters can afford these exorbitant taxes. Despite the fact that seniors have been demonized by the cultish groupthink mentality of some of the people who want the referendum to go through, this is a class issue. There are parents with children in the school system who cannot afford the huge tax increases, as well as first-time homeowners, young professionals with crippling student debts, single-parent households, etc. Many residents have suppressed their opinion for fear of being intimidated by parents who've forgotten the school system's zero tolerance policy against bullying. I have heard the phrase bandied about that local government is sensitive to those with financial difficulties. What does this mean exactly? If they were truly sensitive, local government wouldn't be endorsing a disastrous project which will impact a significant amount of residents. At the very least, they would stay impartial as per Wethersfield Article 21, Code of Ethics 1064. Phase 1 of referendum is $239 million. Phase 2 referendum for 2028 is an additional $160 million in proposed spending, nearly $400 million, while elementary school enrollment dropped by 143 students from 2022 to 24, with further decline expected. Residents who are already struggling financially are expected to foot these enormous tax increases on top of other projects, such as Millwood's and Keisha Master Plan, as well as the new pickleball court, which residents will have to maintain. How much more taxes can they extract out of us for their special interest projects that benefit a small amount of the population? I urge Wethersfield residents who are opposed to this to speak out. Bullies who resort to ad hominem comments, bandwagon arguments, and use obscene gestures with their children in the car do not dictate what is best for the rest of us. Tomorrow, vote no to higher taxes. Vote no to bullying. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Diane? Yep.
All right, this is always
You can
too
pull
high.
it down a little, Diane.
It's always too high for me. Diane Fournier,
Yeah,
Whipple
just
Way.
speak into the mic. Yeah. Thanks,
Excuse
Diane.
me. What I learned on my summer vacation. I learned that the town would rather expend in excess of $20,000 in taxpayer dollars to hold the referendum in September rather than November elections. I learned that the referendum was labeled special, so it could be moved to September. Aren't all referendums special? I learned that lies are easier told than corrected. I learned that the percentage of the state's reimbursement was the cornerstone of the pro-vote campaign. 73% was drilled into us nonstop. When that figure was proven to be 63% due to ineligible costs, the misrepresentation by both Winnet and town officials continued. Take a look at Channel 14 and you'll see what I mean by town officials still using the 73 figure. Winnet still cites 73 on its website, although it has been repeatedly corrected. I learned that you lose public trust when no effort is made to correct false information. I learned that when I publicly opposed the referendum based on the project's excessive cost and associated large tax burden, I would be labeled selfish, heartless, and didn't care about our children. I learned that the most expensive option was selected when more reasonable options were available. Options may have been thoroughly researched, but nothing less than $239 million was offered. I learned that the town said it couldn't provide a detailed breakdown of costs because it didn't have that information. I later located it on the internet. I learned that the town's school maintenance budget has fallen short for many, many years. I don't expect anything to change. I learned that my tax obligation for Phase 1 will be for 20 years. I learned that should Phase 2 pass, my tax obligation will be up for another 20 years. I learned that many residents faced a huge tax burden during this year's reassessment. I learned they will continue to pay that tax burden for another 3 years. I learned that if the referendum passes, my taxes will rise significantly. I learned about bond issues and that to borrow $88 million,
taxpayers will pay $42 million in interest, with a bottom line figure of $130 million. I learned the viciousness of social media. I learned that this project is unaffordable to many who simply can't afford the town's unending tax increases. Living on a fixed income means having to pick very carefully where every dollar goes. I learned that ageism is alive and well in Wethersfield. Public comments made on Facebook went as far as to suggest seniors can get out of town if they can't afford to pay taxes. It was also suggested that seniors not be allowed to vote on the referendum. I learned that elderly residents have paid their taxes for decades and were offended by the previous comments. They have made Wethersfield what it is today. Please be respectful. I learned that this campaign has seriously divided this town instead of bringing our community together. It is absolutely no surprise that I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Diane, just for the record, your address. You didn't give the folks.
I did.
Oh, did you have it, Sue? Okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, thank you, Diane. Further public comment. I missed someone before. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay. Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to council reports. Does any councilor have a report this evening? Councilor Carbone.
Thank you, Mayor. On our town website, the Youth and Social Services has an advertisement for Narcan training, which will be next Tuesday night. First of all, I think everyone should be taking, as a nurse, you should be taking Narcan training, if even it saves one life. A neighbor, a child, a student, something, even older people, believe it or not, can be affected by accidental overdose. So the problem I have with this, though, it says on the website, register at the QR code on the flyer, and it's the flyer's here. So if somebody wants to register, how would they go about and register?
Be able to click on it too, but I can, if it doesn't work, I can. That was on a social media post from us?
No, this is on our management report. So is it different on the actual website?
Should be a link to it, but I'll
Okay. Can you double check for that for me?
Sure.
And if not, just please, I really encourage everyone to go. So reach out to the town, we'll figure it out and get you registered. It is a Zoom training. And then there's also a block party, free food, free entertainment. That's next Thursday. This is also through We Hope, which is our town's prevention program, which is wonderful for youth. And that is next Thursday. So that's it. Please come out and join us.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Any other council reports?
Can I just ask one quick question?
Councilor Zambrello.
So thank you for telling us about that Narcan training. Could you just, I don't know if you said Tuesday evening? Could you just let us know where?
It's right here. It's a Zoom, September 20, wait a minute, I have them backwards. September 25th from 6 to 7:30. Yeah, I wrote down the 23rd, done.
For 25th. Oh.
But it's a virtual training. Sorry, that is the 25th. I got that confused.
So it's next Thursday?
Next Thursday, not Tuesday.
And you said
sorry.
6 to 7:30, and where is it happening?
It's Zoom, so you have to register for it.
Oh, right, you said it's right on Zoom. Okay, perfect.
But
Thank
it's
you
right,
for
it should
sharing
be on the
that.
website.
Yeah,
Councilor Zambrello.
that's all, thank you.
Councilor Carbone.
Oh,
All set?
yeah.
Yep. Further council reports. Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, council comments. Any councilor with any comments tonight? Let me make a couple, and I usually talk about events since our last council meeting and events coming up before our next council meeting. So we've already talked about the wall, but I hope most of you got to visit. It was a tremendous tribute to our fallen heroes and to our veterans, and thank you to the committee and to the town and everybody that worked on that. As far as upcoming events, I will mention two that are happening. Well, two on my list, there may be more, that are happening before the next council meeting. One is September 27th, which will be the second annual Cars on Main in dedication and memory of police officer Bobby Garton. I believe that is from 10 to 4. That is Saturday, September 27th. And then Saturday, October 4th, is the fire department awards night. I believe that is at 6 o'clock at the Pitkin Community Center. That's it for my comments. Does any councilor, yep, Councilor Carbone.
I raised my hand, you didn't see me.
I'm
That's
sorry.
okay, no problem. So I'm sorry to go after you.
No.
I apologize.
Go right ahead.
The first, I was wondering if we could please take the roof contract award off the agenda, the consent agenda. I see that Sally's here. I just have a few questions, if
Agreeable
that's
to me?
agreeable.
Do we need a motion? Hold.
Okay.
We'll take it
All
off,
right.
yeah.
Wonderful. Thank
Anything
you.
else, Counselor Carmel?
Yes, actually, so I would like to take a few moments to talk about the events that happened over the past week or so. Sorry, I do have my notes organized, but I know it's a very emotional time for a lot of us. And if you don't understand that, I'm sorry. But sowing the seeds of hate have consequences. And it leads to violence, whether it's political or personal. Being able to speak our minds and offering a difference of opinion, like Mr. Woodward was saying, is protected under our First Amendment rights. That is what makes America great, but it also is what allows these seeds of hate to be sowed, actually. Using words such as white supremacist, fascist, bigot, Nazi, etc., we can keep going over and over again, seeps into vulnerable minds. Then they begin to villainize people with differences of opinion. And instead of having conversations about this, it ends in violence. The assassination of Charlie Kirk has stunned our nation, and many of us are grieving the loss of this brilliant young political mind who was also a devout Christian, father, husband, son. This young man was silenced, murdered for the whole world to see, shot down like nothing because someone didn't like what he had to say. And if any of you find any joy in this man's brutal assassination, I implore you to look in the mirror and look deep inside yourselves and truly try to figure out what it is you actually hate. And if you think this man spoke hate, then honestly, you really were not listening. My daughter called me from South Carolina very upset and crying and told me that she was scared because our young women are being targeted, stabbed brutally on trains, punched in the face, set on fire, while no one intervenes or helps. And why is this? Because again, the seeds of hate have been sown. That I didn't want to call him a man who was leaving the train after he brutally stabbed that beautiful young woman in the neck, didn't say, oh, I got myself an immigrant. He said, I got a white woman. Constantly villainizing people based on color, race, religion, sexual preference has got to stop. And it starts even at the local level, and that's why I'm sitting here at this small dais in Wethersfield having this conversation, or words, I should say. Even in these very chambers, these terms have been thrown around, white supremacist and bigot, among others. We should be working to unite our communities, not to divide them further. Before it was Keisha, then it was the thin blue line flag issue, and now it's the school referendum. One of our residents emailed us that she didn't feel safe in a town council meeting expressing her opinion because of the horrific glares and jeers she was getting from the audience. Again, I implore you to look inside yourselves and remember that we are all in this together. We are a people of shared ideas, and no one way is the only way. Repeating hate speech over and over again does not make it true. It makes it dangerous. And also, before you spout off all these words again, please take a moment to actually find the meaning of them, the true meaning, because I think some people are using them without even knowing what they really mean. And in closing, I'm asking for you to pray for Charlie Kirk and his beautiful family, that you pray for our young people, that they can feel safe to live their lives and experience the world without fear. And pray for our country that we as a community somehow find a way to meet each other in the middle. Thank you for allowing me to.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further council comments? Anyone? Seeing none, we will move on in our agenda.
There's one more.
Oh,
Sorry.
Councilor Timbrow, I'm sorry, you guys gotta,
Gotta look left. No, I'm
Sorry.
kidding.
I do, I started
Sorry,
with
I'm
that.
just joking.
Yeah. Councilor Timbrow.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. I really just wanted to bring attention, echoing what Councilor Carbone said, but more what I found was really great about our state is that it's not so much in the statement, But the CT Young Democrats and the CT Young Republicans came together and put out a statement after the events of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I'm just going to read it. It's, nothing incredible, but what I thought was great is that, being the Young Democrats and the Young Republicans, they set the stage, and then the adults, the CT state parties followed their lead and then did the same thing. But what they said together was, what happened at Utah Valley University this afternoon is unacceptable. We reject all forms of political violence. There is no place in our country for such acts, regardless of political disagreements. We are praying for Charlie Kirk, his family, and all those at Utah Valley University impacted by this horrible act as the community processes and recovers. And again, I just thought that that was important, and I thought that it was really commendable that the young folks, but apparently if you're under 40, then you're considered a young Republican or Democrat, but still, that they came together during this very challenging time where there's a lot of differing opinions. So thank you, Councilor Carbone, for everything you said, and I'm very proud of our young Democrats and young Republicans in the state.
Councilor, thank you, Councilor Timbrow, and we can learn a lot sometimes from our young people. It's nice when they come out together for a statement like that. Further council comments? Looking left. Councilor Carbone? No. Anyone? All right, thank you. We're going to move on our agenda. The next item is the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to first address a couple of comments that were made during public comment. Mr. Young's interest numbers were completely wrong. We actually did provide him the numbers in detail, a spreadsheet that I also shared with the entire council, so you know it was provided to Mr. Young. And it did say for the $88 million that we will be borrowing, that the interest on that over the term of the loan would be $41.8 million. So the total cost to the town will be $129.8 million. That was provided to Mr. Young, and that was provided to others that reached out and asked for that specific information. That was not something that we had as a basic document. We actually created that. We had finance create it so that you had that information. They had done the calculation before to do the impact to the taxpayers for the explanatory text that everyone received, and that number was provided. The numbers that he gave for the $239 million interest, we can't give you that because we're not paying that interest. That's the state. The other money, not the $88 million. So, and to the point about the 73% reimbursement rate, the explanatory text is very clear. 73% is the state reimbursement rate. It also states that the state suggests that we assume that about 10% of the cost will not be reimbursable. So to take those two pieces and say that means the rate is 63% is not true. It is the reimbursement rate is 73% on whatever the eligible cost is, which we don't know right now because the schools have not been designed. It might be 1%, it might be 2%, it might be 5%. We don't know. The state said use 10 to be conservative. That's what we did in the explanatory text because that's the guidance that we got from the state. We've been very clear about this. There's no misinformation. There's no grand scheme to misinform everybody. The explanatory text has been out there for weeks now. Everybody should have received it in the mail. And if you didn't, we have copies over there. We have copies in the clerk's office, copies in our office. It's up on the website. We've made every effort to get all the information out as best we can. I don't care which side of the issue you're on with this. What I care about is that everybody gets out and votes. That's the most important thing. Because if you don't, you're giving up your voice, and then when you come in and complain next week, if it didn't go your way and you didn't vote, you have nobody to blame but yourself. So what I would recommend is everybody is read the explanatory text. If you don't have a copy, there's a stack right there on that table, or go online and look at it, and go out and vote what you feel you should vote for. But don't vote based upon something you read on Facebook or a letter you read in the Rare Reminder. Vote based upon the true information because there's a lot of misinformation out there. I've been fielding calls for the last few weeks, people calling saying, how could this be this? Well, it's not. What you're reading is incorrect. You're all smart people, but get out there and vote because it's very important. This is probably the biggest, most important vote in this town in decades, okay? We've done our best within the rules that the state provides. because it's very, they say, oh, you're silent on this, you're silent on that. We have to be, because it's actually called the silent period. We can only say what they tell us that we can say. And I think we've done a great job at it, frankly. And again, I don't care which side of the issue you're on, but you should go out and vote. I did also get a couple of comments and on Facebook about the Rose Garden work. Why are we spending all this money on the Rose Garden, all these taxpayer dollars? I want to make it very clear. There's not a penny of taxpayer dollars going to that Rose Garden work. The Frank Weston Rose Garden was money that was donated by the Weston estate for the sole purpose of that Rose Garden. And we used it, the town used it when they initially created the Rose Garden. Unfortunately, a disease inflicted all the roses. Peter Winnie, who's the gardener who's working on it for us, said, you've got to pull everything out. You got to get rid of the soil. You got to get rid of everything and start over. So with that, and with the money that we had in this account, we redesigned it with his help, and we made more hardscape and made it more user-friendly for everybody. But no taxpayer dollars are spent on that project. And it's going to be a great project at the end of it, and we're looking forward to its completion. But I just want to make that clarification, because a lot of people are out there saying we're wasting all this money while we're raising taxes. None of the money spent on this project were taxpayer dollars. With that, that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Town Clerk's report. Sue.
To date, we have issued 228 absentee ballots, and 207 have been returned. So no more absentee ballots can be issued. And tomorrow we should be getting, we have, 19 left? We should be getting a good amount of those back, either in the mail, drop box, or in person.
Thank you, Sue. Moving right along, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Councilor Zambrello.
I move adoption of the consent agenda items 1, 2, and 4.
Do I have a second? All in favor of the consent agenda on items 1, 2, and 4? Remember, we pulled one item. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we have one item pulled by Councilor Carbone. Do you want to have an explanation?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Town Manager.
So this item is the yearly roof leak response and maintenance contract for all town and school buildings, and it's with Tremco. This is a contract we enter into each year, and this is for leak response. Sally Katz is here, Director of Physical Services, and she can answer any specific questions that Councilor Carbone might have.
Thank you, Town Manager. Hi, Sally. Hi. Did you know I was going to have questions? Is that why you're here?
I didn't believe the consent agenda part.
So thank you for in advance.
Well, let's.
We need a motion first?
Let's,
Yeah, you probably
we
should
need a motion,
Sure.
and we're going to. Councilor Zambrello.
I move to approve the yearly contract with Tremco, which gives the town leak response and minor repair services.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion on the motion.
Go.
Councilor Carbone.
Again, thank you. I had some questions because I remember you guys had come and did a roof report, if you will. When was that? Do we know when that roof report was? Are we doing that yearly? Because I don't remember that being done in a while.
We had Mike Boudreau from Tremco here 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
But we do get updated information on a yearly basis, and it's information that is available to you.
Oh, so if somebody wanted to access this information, how would they find it? The roof report?
You can go on to, we have a website through Tremco, MyOLI, if you're a part of the Wethersfield. If you're part of the Wethersfield administration, and the town manager can send that information to you, that information is out there.
Okay, so backtracking, if, say, somebody in the town says, I really would like the state of the roofs, they reach out to the town manager, and you will provide that information, is what you're saying?
We can either get specific information, or we can put out the web. You have to have credentials to get into the website.
Okay.
So when people have had specific questions, they have actually emailed me, and I've been able to provide the updated information to them.
Yeah, we can
Perfect.
provide it to you, access to you, but not to the general public.
Got it. Because when you said it's accessible, it's really not, but.
It's to
it
you
is.
all, yeah, I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Okay. So how is the state of our roofs? Because since we haven't had a report in 2 years, this is the company we've been using for quite some time. And I guess my questions are, how many roof leaks were fixed last year? Is this a service that, how much savings are we making by, sorry, go ahead. You know what I'm asking.
I know what you're asking. The first part is, our roofs on our buildings are safe. However, they are significantly aging, and not just the schools, our town buildings also. And so we have not, since I've been here actually, have not done a complete roof replacement on an entire building. And so knowing that the roofs are aging, we have the leak response. So for example, when we've gotten torrential rains and we've gotten leaks in the basement here or in other places, we have this contract with Tremco. We call them, they come out, they investigate, and then if there are tears in a seam or if there is a couple of squares that need to be replaced, this covers that.
Okay. It covers the cost as well?
It covers the cost,
Okay.
yes. And so that
not
comes
just
under the
them looking.
that comes
Okay.
under the minor repairs. They're
Okay.
not going to replace, a third of the roof on this. But say, for example, the physical services roof, is incredibly old, and the seams are very brittle. We get leaks in the mechanics bays. They come out, they resurface, they're doing things piecemeal until at CIP, CIAC time, when I come and ask for money to replace roofs, we're hoping that happens, but until that time, we're basically Band-Aiding and catching up.
And how is their response time? Because, we hear all the time, oh, the roofs are leaking here, and we have buckets, and we have this, and we have that. So if we have this roof repair, and they seem to be timely, and they're doing their thing.
They are timely, they are doing their thing, and I will say that, and I've had this conversation over and over again, we've often heard about High Crest. The High Crest roof, over the years, because of money that council is giving us, has been replaced. And so people who are talking about there are buckets on the floor, that's incorrect and old information.
Okay.
So to answer your question, they don't come out while it's raining, because they can't really assess what the problem is. But they have been very good about really coming within 24 hours. When I've needed something in an emergency, I can contact our representative and he gets someone out. So we've had multiple teams at times at multiple locations
Through Tremco.
Through Tremco.
Okay.
Without this contract, I will say that, we go through the state contract. If I had to pay time and materials, calling someone in every time we have a leak, this probably would be at least double the amount.
Okay.
Because as I found out when I had to do time and materials on something else, because people in my industry don't have workers, their hourly rates are exorbitant. They can be $300, $600, $700 an hour. And so by having this covered under this contract, I don't have to worry about that. All I need to do is be able to call in at 24/7, I can contact my guys and they'll come in and respond.
Perfect. One last question, slightly unrelated, but still a roof question. I noticed, so we had as a council approved that one piece at High Crest to be redone.
Finished. Yep.
So this summer, they did the gym, that was that last piece. It's
Yes.
all done.
There, and Imperial, who did the work, they still have some actually equipment at High Crest. They're doing some metal finishes that they were waiting to have delivered.
Okay.
But that roof is 99%, which makes that system new because we've been replacing it piece by piece over the past 5 years.
Okay.
And that is fully warranted.
For how long?
20 years.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Sally. I'm good. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further questions or comments?
Over here.
Councilor Clancy.
Thank you.
Look great. To look to the side to make sure I don't miss anybody. Councilor Clancy.
Are there any other local competitors to Tremco?
Very few. We go through the state, we go through our purchasing collective, but not really. I mean, it's a very narrow business.
That's why you're not recommending anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's up with the wood roofs? Has Fiscal Services been able to treat any of the wood roofs?
We've actually been told not to treat them.
Okay.
I did go out, I had gotten some pricing for doing some cleaning of them. And I will tell you, I've not gotten one consistent thing to say, do this. And so I'll bring forward to the town manager some bids that I've gotten to do them for cleaning. Some people say be very careful, don't do high pressure washes, don't use any soap or certain chemicals, oh, it hasn't rained and so therefore we're not getting algae buildup on some of these roofs. So I'm getting mixed messages, and so that's why I haven't moved.
So nothing's happened yet?
Not right now, no.
Okay, but you have the ability to get up there and do it?
Not us. Physical Services does not, and I do not have people who feel comfortable being able to do that work. It is specialized work when it comes to the cedar shakes. You have to know what you're doing, and while my staff is incredibly talented, they are not cedar shake roof experts. And so that would definitely be something we would bid out to an outside company.
Okay. Well, I would be curious to hear what you've got.
Yep.
Thank you.
All set, Council Clancy. Further council comments or questions? At this point, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item, make sure I get the right one, K1, Vision Zero Policy. Do I have a motion? Councilor Zambrello.
I move to approve R 25-013 to adopt the Vision Zero policy.
Do I have a second? Discussion on the motion. Councilor Zambrello.
Just one question, so you brought up the red light and speed cameras earlier. I was just wondering, do we have any updates on the timeline for that?
So the council approved the vendor for that. We're just working out the contract language now, and should be signed this week, if not early next week. And then they'll begin the process. They'll give us the full timeline and everything after that once we have that in place.
Okay, so we'll
But
have more info
My
soon.
guess is that we'll start to see them installed this fall sometime.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zambrello. Further council comments? Councilor Carbone.
How did you know? I think I'm just struggling with this policy a little bit, and please forgive me, and I wish I had time to speak to y'all before this meeting, because then we wouldn't be having this conversation, and we can all leave. But even when I read through it, it's a whole lot of nothing happening here, and our goal is always public safety. Bottom line, no matter whatever we do, whether we're doing, sidewalks, streets, the cameras, public safety is very important. So to put it in these words, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm not sure. And if you said to me, listen, we need to write it this way so we can get a grant, is that what you're saying to
That's
me?
basically,
Okay.
so this is the language that we were provided, and this is what, again, so there's a handful of communities in Connecticut that have adopted the Vision Zero policy and have
Using
then
these
done the
words.
next step, absolutely, and then done the next step of creating their plan. But yes, it absolutely does help you with grants, and it helps, I think, just being a Vision Zero community, I think it helps the public know that that's a priority of this council.
Okay. Yeah, okay. There's just a whole lot of nothing in here, so
I get it.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
I'll just comment, we're setting a goal. That's what Vision Zero is, and we're creating a plan underneath that.
I think we've always had that goal to be, and then even, I'm sorry, but
Go
even
ahead,
the
Counselor.
10 years, past 10 years, look back, like if you would look back a year, 2 years, 3 years, our numbers have significantly come down. So we're doing the right things already, and
Well-
it's not that, and not that I don't want to continue, of course I want to continue
I'm
for
going
public
to
safety.
respond, and then I'm going to call Councilor Clancy. We had 3 fatalities on the Silas Deane Highway last year. It's
Yeah.
one of the reasons this council decided to do the red light and speed cameras,
Yeah.
to do everything we possibly can for public safety. Vision Zero is another one. It says it's a goal. You heard
But you
also
had
good for
data,
grants.
and we made a decision based on it, so I guess putting it in
This is
paper just doesn't make sense.
something the state is recommending, that other towns have done, and it will allow us to get grants. But as a council, we set goals, we set policies. So, yeah, I mean, I understand your opinion. You're certainly free to vote
Yeah, I'm
against
just like,
it, but-
show me something,
but,
show me something
I'll-
concrete in here.
Yeah.
I was just going to respond to Shelley. It's kind of like, it's an adherence to a standard that's, I think that people that do this have heard of. When we first started talking about the red light cameras and everything, and when I got on town council, I was like, how come we don't have a Vision Zero thing? Because West Hartford has
You're
one.
familiar with it.
Yeah, I knew what it was, and I think it's just a thing. That's what it's called. And it's just us saying we're going to live up to the standard, and because we decide to do that, then we're going to be entitled to other things and federal grants and stuff like that. And since we're already doing it, we want to recognize the fact that we're doing it.
Thank you, that
There you
makes
go.
sense to me. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Councilor Clancy. Councilor Carbone, all set?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else on this item? Yes, Councilor Timbrow.
This just brought up another question for me. So is there any, just because you're saying it's a standard and it's for the state and potentially for grants, is there any like consequences or anything that could be negative from?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
No.
But by not doing it, you mean?
Oh, no, like if just is there a possibility for negative consequences if like we don't live up to some standard with like the policy, I guess, because it is so open-ended, I'm just curious. if there's
No, basically,
any
all it is, it's a commitment by the legislative body in town to make this one of their priorities and move this forward. That's all this resolution is doing. And then we will develop the plan. There's no consequence if we don't implement it in a certain time or anything like that, but it's just, we're setting goals, and it's just to give direction, and to give staff direction.
All set, Councilor Timbrow?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other council comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes, thank you. Moving on to item L-1, unfinished business. Do I have a motion? Councilor Zambrello.
Sorry, I forgot I was being deputy mayor.
And the deputy
first
mayor
today.
usually, he's not here tonight.
Okay, I move to approve the Council for AFSCME 1303-40 Physical Services Union Contract effective July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028.
Thank you, Councilor Zambrello. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Rhodes. Open for discussion. Do I have any discussion item? Any councilor with a discussion, question, comment? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I abstain.
Nay. Sue, do you have that? Do you have the vote, or do you need a roll call? Or do you have it?
I think we had abstentions too.
Or is there an abstention?
I have one.
One abstention? Okay. Sue, do you have the vote? Councilor Carbone, abstain, right? We want to
Yes.
get your vote recorded. Yep. Thank you. Moving on in our agenda to N-1, the tax incentive program application. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of you may be aware, we do have a tax incentive program ordinance here in this town, and that allows developers to come to us seeking a tax incentive in order for them to complete their project. We did get an application from 341 Jordan Lane Development. For those of you not familiar with that address, that's where the old nursing home was on Jordan Lane. This building has been, this property has been a major concern of ours for some time. It's a blight issue. It has not been operational as a nursing home for many, many years. We've had many issues with people breaking into the property, causing damage to the property, taking all the piping, all the wiring out, causing fuel spills off the generators, things of that nature. This current developer purchased the property a few years back with the nursing home tenant still under agreement with the previous owner. Took him approximately 2 years to work through that, to decouple that arrangement so he can move forward with the redevelopment proposal. What's currently proposed on the property is apartments, approximately 160 units. This has already been approved by Planning and Zoning for a zone change, and based upon the plan that was presented there. This is about a $50 million investment that the developer is proposing, and he's asking for, within the terms of the ordinance, to provide a 7-year phase-in tax incentive. They would never pay less than they're paying on their taxes otherwise, but it incrementally will increase as the project moves forward. They're asking for actually 3 separate agreements, one for each building. The reason for that is that given the current nature of development right now and the economy in general, there's a lot of uncertainty, and the banks are not willing to loan for the entire project. They're willing to loan for a building at a time. Therefore, it's going to be staggered. So they would like to stagger a tax incentive agreement. In accordance with the ordinance, we have a tax incentive program committee, and that consists of myself, the finance director, the tax assessor. The economic development manager would be part of that. That's a current vacant position. And then a member of EDIC. So we did convene that committee about 2 weeks ago, and the applicant did present their project to us and their request for an incentive. And based upon that, the committee had several questions for the applicant, asked for some additional information, all of which is in your packet now, and reconvened a week later and makes the recommendation that you see before you. So again, it's basically 3-phased agreement. We'll go into much more detail about this. This is for introduction only, but I just wanted to give it an overview because it is a complex project. But at the end of the day, if we assume a 10 to 12-year time frame for everything to be complete with 3 buildings phasing in over 7 years, the town looks to receive, even with the tax incentive program, approximately $3 million worth of tax revenue just on the real estate itself. Absent that, we'd get about $300,000 worth of revenue under the current tax bill. So we think it's a good deal for the town. The developer's made it very clear that without this incentive, he's not going to be able to get the financing he needs to move forward on this. And he will be here. There'll be a public hearing on this at the next meeting, again, in accordance with the ordinance. He will present to you all his entire plan, show you all the pictures that you have in your packet now, and answer any questions you might have at that time. And at that time, you can either vote on it at that meeting, or you can take up to 30 days to make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Just to clarify something, I think you mentioned he asked for a 7-year tax incentive program. He actually asked for 8 years, but we are only allowed to go by ordinance a maximum of 7 years, which is similar to what we did. Those of you familiar with the Borden a few years ago, they actually asked for an 8-year program too, and we, as a council, are only allowed a maximum of 7 years. And this, I think the committee is structuring something similar, the committee that met,
Yes.
to what was done to the Borden. It's for us for introduction tonight to ask questions and comments, and then if we so choose, it will be on our agenda next time. We can vote on it if we want to the incentive program. So now I'm going to open it up to councilors. Again, introduction only tonight, possible vote at our next council meeting. Any questions at this time about the proposed tax incentive program for 341 Jordan Lane? Councilor Carboy.
I'm getting the look. Don't do it. Don't do it. So I'm just looking at, so it's going to be 7-year phase-in. When you say $3 million worth of revenue, is that based on the property potentially being worth $50 million?
No, so it's based upon, it's in your packet, but there's a spreadsheet in there, so it's based upon what the expected valuation would be, and what we used is, the assessor used, essentially, the Borden is the closest thing we have to what this will be in terms of the style of apartments and the level of apartments. So based upon what, in fact, the owner agreed with the assessment process. So it's really based upon what the rent will be, what the income will be, not so much as what what they're spending. So the value will be based on $27 million, roughly. It's the exact number is in your packet.
I know, I'm looking for numbers too. So the property value right now is?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but the tax paid is $26,000 right now.
So when it says that the real estate and property taxes, so those will be paid every year plus the additional 10% of assessed value?
Correct. Year one will be
year.
10%, and so that they pay the escalation once
The
they
assessed value of what?
of the first building.
Okay.
And then once that one is completed, then they'll get the financing for the second building. And once they get the a certificate of occupancy for the second building, then the clock will start on that one. So then they'll pay 10% on that one, 20%, and so on. And then on the same thing with the third building. So the idea is that as the developer's investing money into the project, they have less of a tax impact, but at the end of it, the tax bill is going to be almost $800,000. That does not include what's expected on the taxing for the vehicles, which is probably going to be about another $150,000 if you assume about a $25,000 average vehicle price. And then it also doesn't include personal property, which they'll have in all the common areas. So they'll have like gym areas and community buildings and things like that, and that will be taxed differently.
And that'll
So
all be phased into. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Counselor Timbrow.
So I don't have a question, I just have a couple comments that I'm personally very much looking forward to this presentation because I feel like this property has been an eyesore and an issue for a very long time. So the fact that we have someone who's reputable that is willing to invest is a really good thing. I think it'll be good for the town. Obviously, anytime you do something that's like a tax incentive, I think that you get a little like squirmy just because it's different. But like you pointed out, there's a lot more upside, it seems, from what we're talking about right now for the town. So I'm not against that, but again, I would want to hear what they had to say. And I do believe, too, that they did just complete a project on New Britain Ave that looks great. So, yeah, no, I think it's really cool, and it might be a little bit different, but we'll be able to ask them questions and talk to them when they're here next meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor Timbrow.
Thank you.
Further council comments or questions? Let me just, I was going to make a comment. Please, Counselor Zambrello.
Thank you. I just had two questions, and I'm sorry if you said this already. How long has that property been abandoned now?
I think
It's about 13 years.
Yeah.
13
yeah,
years.
over
And
that.
where, in the current property tax revenue, am I 26?
Roughly 27,000 in that.
So this is a net increase
Absolutely.
immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I agree with the comments that Councilor Timbrow made. I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for the town, and I'm looking forward to the presentation.
And I should also point out that the applicant did voluntarily agree to do 5 affordable units within the complex. I'm sorry, 5% affordable in the complex. We do not yet have an approved affordable housing plan, so there's no requirement for them to do that. But they're doing it because they know it's important, and they don't want to get us too much further behind than where we are right now in terms of reaching that 10% goal.
Further council comments or questions? Just point out a few things for the public and the council as well. So there will be approximately 8 units, 5% affordable, 160 units altogether proposed spending about $50 million. It's been empty for 13 years. This is a significant opportunity for the town. And when we talk about taxes, and we're all sensitive to taxes, one of the ways that we can help all of us is to bring in more businesses and to change a little of the mix from residents paying, which is about 73% residential burden, 27% roughly that is coming from commercial. We need to improve that mix. One of the ways to do that is to bring in businesses like this. And the town, I know the town manager and his staff, I've been in several of the meetings. This guy is proposing to spend about $50 million, and the number of going from 26,000 to about 800,000 when the project is done is and that doesn't account for the vehicle tax and some of the other things, personal property. It's going to be closer to $1 million. This is what we need to do in Wethersfield. We're working on it. I'm looking forward to having the developer here to answer questions, to present to us, and for the public to hear. That will be in 2 weeks at our October 6th meeting. If there are no other further questions or comments, I'm going to go right, this is just for introduction, there's no vote on this tonight. I'm going to go right to the last public comment session. So again, we invite members of the public to come up. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address. Would anybody like to address the council at this time? Mr. Young.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I'm going to continue where I left off. Don't forget, I got cut off. I went to the internet and I put in for information regarding this particular bond, and I came up with an entire schedule of the standard straight principal amount by year with the applicable interest rate. And when we went through all of it, when IA did all of this, it came up with $119 million of interest. Yet the town managers first, when I had sent in my Freedom of Information request, I was originally told that the information does not exist, which was pretty poor of Wethersfield, but what else can you expect? Eventually, Mr. O'Neill, the finance director, put together a schedule showing not just the 20 years, but there's also 3 small bond issues within that, which I could not ask IA to calculate because I had no idea what they were going to be. So anyway, when Mr. O'Neill did his numbers, his interest rate over the 20 years was $2 million less than what IA said it would be, which isn't much. But still in all, it was $2 million less, which meant now for the $239 million, and you should be reporting on the $239 million. These are your numbers. This is Town of Wethersfield numbers. It's it was $119 million by IA and by the state, by extrapolating how the $88 million calculated, it would be $113 million of interest out of $239 million worth of bonds being sold. So your grand total is $358 million, or I should say $352 million for the whole project for the 3 schools. That meant $113 million is for interest. And here we go. How do we figure out, and how did we come to this point, Mayor, of paying all of this interest? Whether it's based on the $88 million or whether it's based on the $239 million, because most of us are all taxpayers for the state, we pay state taxes. And we should be looking at it from that point of view. And how did we get to this point where now we're paying premium prices to have anything done on this project for these 3 schools? And we're throwing in extra bumps of money, like $24 million, because the state of Connecticut says we have to put it in. Plus, we have to pay $119 million additional for interest. That brings us up to, like I said, that total of $352 million. For what? Because our town councils over the last 20 years didn't do the appropriate repairs to these buildings. It's all because of the town councils. It's not the citizens. It's the town councils. They wanted to get re-elected. So by getting re-elected, they cut back on repairs to buildings. And now it comes to this point where we're going to get hit with $352 million over 20 years to pay. And that's loaded with parts, materials that cost so much more today than they did back when this work should have been done. And really, this project is much, much more work to be done than what should have been done. It's just a big blowout, big work job. That's all this is. And for $352 million, it's going to cost state taxpayers and the town of Wethersfield taxpayers. That's a tremendous amount of money. And that's because of the failure of our politicians who wanted to get reelected. And that's all of you. It's all of your
Thank
people
you, Mr.
before
Young.
you. They've all done that. And
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Steve Kirsch had talked about this. Yes, I know, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Well, listen, everybody should
Thank you.
consider voting no on this.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
go
Young.
back and work on the numbers.
Thank you.
These numbers are terrible.
Further public comments? Anyone? Steve?
Steve Kelly, 29 Old Smithy Lane. I might have missed it because I sit too far back, but on that bid for the roof repair, did you say a dollar amount? Not up and down for yes? Or
No.
no?
Do you want to address that?
Steve, we after, on council comments, which is right after this session on the public, we'll address that. So we will come to that. Do you have any further comments? We'll address
Yeah,
it.
the other thing I was concerned about, I was at the last meeting when Councilor Bailey brought up about the contract that you guys just approved, that you're going to grandfather the current maintainer ones and grandfather them and make them the twos. I would just be concerned that the guys that are qualified for currently being a maintainer two are going to probably want to go to arbitration and, you know, bump up to maybe maintainer 2 AA. Has that entered anybody's thoughts?
So we can try and address some of these after the public comments. So you have two things, the maintainer and the tree
Yep.
contract. And we'll
That's
see
it.
if we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Further public comments? Yes, Christine.
Christine Kelly LaSella, 37 Belmont Street. Just two things that, well, I guess it's two things. I'm disappointed to hear, and I've seen some of this stuff on Facebook and the bullying, and to hear someone in the audience say that people are saying that seniors should leave our town. You know, it's wrong, and they know it's wrong, and that's why none of them are here probably. So I can't address the people in the audience, and one has already left, but I'm almost a senior myself, and I think it's wrong for people to say that. So going from that, I don't know what this referendum's going to do. I don't think any of us do. I think it's going to be close no matter which way it goes. Is there a plan B if it doesn't pass, is my first thought. And is there a plan B if it does pass? And by that I mean to help the people that might need the help, that are afraid of this. There are families in this town that do live week to week paychecks, single moms, single dads, whatever, maybe two parent household, and it's two moms or it's two dads, and they don't live on a, big income. So there's people that are afraid. I've heard from them, I've talked to them. There are people that aren't afraid. There are people that are like, this is absolutely great. So I haven't heard anybody from the building committee say, if it doesn't pass, what is the plan, other than people on Facebook, which, you can't listen to that. And what are we going to do to help people? And also, if it doesn't pass, we can't have people pointing their fingers at those who didn't vote for it and saying, this is your fault and we're going to do this. And I think it starts with all of you up here, and I know there was a couple of you that aren't running again, so even if the new people running work together. I've sat at a lot of the meetings, and questions get asked from one side to the other, and I think to myself, how come you guys don't get together? How come you guys don't have a group email or a group text and just, hey, this is what we're talking about, and keep each other in the loop? I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you're Republican, gay, straight, blue, black, purple, whatever. You're working together to help our town, and that's what I think if it starts, I'm not saying the bullies are your guys' fault but, let's all work together and communicate and maybe this nonsense, especially telling people in this town that is made up of seniors that are our history, spending time at the Cove this weekend, there's a lot of history down there talking to veterans, and they make up from all over the country, not just from Wethersfield. And our seniors in this town are full of stories, and we all have a story, and we're all going to be seniors. And I don't want to be run out of here. I'm sure none of you will either when we all get there. So I guess that was all.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Any further public comments tonight? Seeing none, our last item before we adjourn is council comments. I'll entertain any council comments, then I'll ask the town manager if he can respond to any of the questions that Steve was asking. But any further final council comments, then we're going to ask the town manager to respond. Councilor Rhodes.
I just want to appreciate the number of people, both on council and in the community, who've spoken to how important it is that we listen to each other, that we be kind, that we talk about us instead of them, right? We can't other people. We other people all the time. Everybody does it, and we have to stop. It's not just our town, it's the country that's doing this. And the divisiveness is on both sides. And that has to be really clear. And that everybody needs to be heard. And we hear others better when they are able to share their thoughts in a way that is not attacking of the listeners either. We need to listen to each other. And I appreciated hearing so many comments tonight to that end, how important it is that we find ways to just sit down and talk to each other. Because we all, at the end of the day, want the same thing. We want a community where people can live their lives and be happy and content. So I look forward to future opportunities to continue those conversations.
Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. Any other council comments tonight? I'm going to ask, Councilor Carbone.
I actually had a question for our town manager, and I may have missed it. So polling tomorrow for this, 6 to 8 p.m., 6 a.m., 8 p.m. at your typical polling place.
Correct.
And are any schools involved?
Yes.
And will those children be on premise?
Yes.
Okay, so there'll be people there. God bless you.
You know more specifics about this? Yeah.
Okay, you were going to talk about it?
I have a bit more information about that, and I might not remember all the details, but I talked to John Weiner about this last week, and the schools will continue to be open, Emerson and Webb, that are used for polling places, but they will be cordoned off.
Okay.
So the public will not be able to go into the areas where the students are going to be.
Okay.
So they might be moving around a little bit differently tomorrow, but they won't be interacting with any voters.
So your typical polling center, wherever you vote in a typical election, is where you go tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I just wanted to also make a comment about the pickleball courts at Mill Woods. The funding for those pickleball courts that are at Mill Woods were through which grant? The Urban Act?
Urban Act grant, yes.
Urban Act grant, state funds, and can only be used at Mill Woods, and that is why we are trying to find a nice place in Mill Woods where everybody can be happy with the pickleball courts. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone, and we've been trying for a couple of years to get those pickleball courts.
Yeah.
Councilor Timbrow.
Thank you. Am I allowed to talk about the referendum? I just don't want to say something I can't say. I'm not going to tell people how to vote, but can I speak?
You can talk about it. I mean, any member of the council can have an opinion. You're not supposed to use town resources to express an opinion for one side or the other.
Okay.
If that makes
I'm
sense.
not doing that. I don't think.
Well, yeah, we're in the silent period, so you have to kind of be careful in terms of expressing an opinion, for or against it.
Okay. Yeah, it's not for or against. It's just in general. But if I start, I guess, just do a hand and I'll stop.
And have the officer come in and
yeah, take me away. Just kidding. Don't do that. Yeah, so I think that what I wanted to address, just given that this vote is happening tomorrow, over I mean, really the entire time, but over the past few weeks, we've listened to a lot of public comment, and I think that there's a lot of support, which is great, and I think that there's a lot of people who have concerns, which I completely understand and I think are totally valid. But I think what I want to put out in the forefront, because there's been some negative inferences into how the council has gone about the referendum and unanimously voting it through. And I just want to say that, many times, and I think everyone would agree, we are in the business of having to walk a fine line between sacrificing the good for the perfect. And I think that when it comes to this type of a plan, something that's so big, something that, we do know that our schools are in need of something, us unanimously moving this forward doesn't necessarily, put our personal opinions at the forefront of what we believe should happen, but more to the point that it's at a place that it should be in the hands of the residents of this town. And that is what tomorrow is all about. It's the fact that we've gotten to a place that we can do no more at this point. The committees have been formed, the input has been put in, the information has been out there, and where it belongs is with the residents. And I think that there is something to be said for that. And to be completely honest, that's all that I wanted to be put out there, is we feel like we've done our job, and now it's the residents, and whichever way it goes is the way that it should go for the citizens of this town who are voting. So,
Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Further council comments, and I'm going to ask the town manager to respond to the questions from Steve Kelly. But if before that, does any, and then we're going to wrap up the meeting. Does any other councilor have any comments? Okay. Mr. Town Manager.
Sure. Mr. Kelly's questions first, the Tremco contract was $77,852. That's what was listed in the contract amount. With respect to the maintainer twos in the contract, and if there's a chance that would be arbitrated if they're aggrieved by that, they all voted for it. So the union voted for it. So I don't think they could get an arbitration on something that they voted on as a union. They could try. They'd have to grieve it. They'd have to go through process. Anything is possible. But my understanding is it passed pretty handily. And I think in my conversations with them, there's nobody that feels particularly aggrieved. But anything's possible with the process and with negotiations. But right now we have an approved contract on their side already. Council just approved it, so I think it moves forward without an issue.
Councilors, we have no executive session tonight, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Rhodes, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.